Elena Rodriguez sat at the marble table in the upscale restaurant, feeling her anxiety rise with each passing moment. At 32, she taught third grade at an underfunded public school and lived in a modest apartment she shared with a roommate. She wore her best dress, but it looked plain compared to the elegant outfits she saw on other diners. Her friend Maria had set up this blind date, assuring her the man was kind and down to earth. But Elena wondered what she had been thinking, agreeing to meet someone at a place where the menu probably cost more than her weekly grocery budget. The man sitting across from her was named Alexander Hayes, and he wore a dark vest over a crisp white shirt that suggested wealth and success. He had been nothing but polite since they sat down, but Elena felt the weight of their different worlds pressing down on her. When the waiter brought menus without prices, Elena realized she had no idea what anything cost, and panic began to set in. She looked at Alexander and whispered that she did not belong here, that this had been a mistake. Alexander set down his menu and looked at Elena with an expression of genuine concern rather than judgment. He told her he understood exactly how she felt, because he remembered his own first experience in a restaurant like this years ago. Elena looked surprised, and Alexander explained that he had not always been successful or wealthy. He had grown up in a working-class neighborhood and had worked multiple jobs to put himself through business school. His first client dinner at an upscale restaurant had left him feeling exactly as Elena did now. Elena appreciated his attempt to relate, but pointed out that he clearly belonged in places like this now, while she would always be out of her element. Alexander asked why she believed that, and Elena explained she was a public school teacher who would never earn enough to afford luxury. She loved her work and her students, but she lived paycheck to paycheck and could not imagine ever being comfortable in places where people casually spent more on dinner than she made in a week. Alexander listened thoughtfully, and then told Elena something that surprised her. He said he owned several successful tech companies and attended fancy dinners regularly for business, but he rarely felt he belonged in those spaces either. The wealth and success had not changed the fundamental truth that he valued different things than most people in his professional circle. He had agreed to this blind date because Maria had described Elena as someone who cared about making a difference rather than making money, and that had appealed to him more than any amount of social status. Elena relaxed slightly and admitted she had been terrified when Maria told her about the blind date. Maria had mentioned Alexander was successful, but had not specified he was quite this successful. Elena had almost canceled multiple times, but had finally decided to give it a chance because she trusted Maria's judgment. Alexander smiled and said he was glad she had come because meeting someone genuine was rare in his world, where people often wanted to know him for what he had rather than who he was. They ordered food, and Alexander made sure Elena felt comfortable by asking about her teaching and her students. Elena's passion became evident as she talked about the children she worked with and the challenges they overcame despite limited resources. She described creative lessons she developed and small victories that reminded her why she had chosen this career. Alexander listened with genuine interest and asked thoughtful questions that showed he valued her work. As they ate, Alexander shared more about his own journey. He explained that his success had come at a cost, including a failed marriage to someone who had loved his status more than his character. He had spent years building his businesses while neglecting personal relationships, and he was now trying to find balance. He admitted he felt disconnected from what truly mattered and envied Elena's sense of purpose and her clear positive impact on young lives. Elena found herself enjoying the conversation far more than she had expected. Alexander did not make her feel inferior or out of place. Instead, he seemed genuinely interested in her perspective and her experiences. When dessert arrived, Elena commented that she still felt overwhelmed by the opulence of the restaurant, but Alexander had made her feel less like she did not belong and more like perhaps belonging was about the person you were with rather than the place you were. Alexander agreed and said he would be happy to meet her somewhere more comfortable next time if she wanted there to be a next time. Elena surprised herself by saying she would like that very much. They exchanged numbers and made plans to meet at a casual cafe near Elena's school the following week. As they prepared to leave, Alexander insisted on paying the bill, and Elena felt grateful rather than embarrassed because he did it in a way that felt like simple kindness rather than charity. Over the following months, Elena and Alexander continued dating, and they made efforts to bridge their different worlds. Alexander visited Elena's classroom and donated money to buy supplies the school desperately needed. Elena attended some of Alexander's business functions and discovered she could hold her own in conversations about different kinds of success and impact. They learned that belonging was not about money or status, but about finding someone who valued you for who you truly were. 6 months after their first date, Alexander took Elena back to the same upscale restaurant where they had met. Elena felt more confident this time, wearing a dress Alexander had helped her pick out, but only because she had wanted his opinion, not because she needed him to validate her. They sat at the same table, and Alexander told Elena he had been thinking about what she had said that first night about not belonging. He said she had been wrong because she belonged anywhere she chose to be, and he hoped she would choose to be with him permanently. Alexander proposed, explaining that Elena had taught him what truly mattered in life. She had shown him that impact was measured not in dollars but in lives touched and hearts changed. He wanted to build a life where they could both pursue what mattered to them while supporting each other through the challenges and victories. Elena said yes, because she had learned that belonging was not about fitting into someone else's world, but about creating a shared world together. They married in a simple ceremony at Elena's school, with her students as witnesses and decorations the children had made. Alexander's business colleagues attended alongside Elena's teaching friends, and the mix of worlds felt natural rather than awkward. During the reception, Elena gave a toast about how she had walked into that restaurant believing she did not belong, only to discover that the right person could make you feel at home anywhere. Alexander added that he had spent years in expensive restaurants and boardrooms feeling empty, but sitting across from Elena that first night, he had finally felt he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Their story reminded everyone that belonging was not about money or status, but about finding people who saw your worth and chose to build a life with you regardless of external circumstances. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales of finding where you truly belong. Leave a comment about a time when you felt out of place but found unexpected acceptance.